Good morning. I'm just continuing on sculpting my barn owl sculpture in progress. And right now I'm just using a tool that kind of smooths out all the forms that I've measured. As you can see right here, I have these different diagrams, and these are available at learnsculpture.org and a preliminary how-to guide to follow along with me. So at this stage, I have a tool known as a riffler. Let me show that to you. I believe I got this years ago from Geiswein, which I think still sells those. And this really is a nice tool for smoothing shapes in a way that I can see what the progress is so far in my work. It's not all choppy when I do this. It gives it a nice leveling effect and crosshatch on a tiny scale that allows me to see where I am with my forms, and it really accentuates the forms in a nice way. So I like this tool a lot. Good morning, Gold Rush. Don't have a lizard yet because I have to finish this first, but as you can see, I've come along. I haven't done the eyelids or done feathers yet, but right now I'm still just measuring areas at the back and measuring areas on the front, as you can see. So, and the other back view. Let's go to the back here. You can kind of see. Again, I've gotten to this point because I've measured from my diagram over to my clay with my little calipers I have. I have big calipers too. You've seen these before, big calipers. I mean, these are great for larger projects or for when I'm getting started, but once I get started, I just want something small. And Sculpture Depot has some nice size ones, different sizes, small ones and medium ones and all that. So by doing this technique of just smoothing everything out, it really gives me a chance to sit back, and I can stand back and see, okay, now I'm going to start the inner patterns. So like these inner patterns of feathers, all these differentiated feathers, I'm going to, once I have my volumes correct, my main volume might be this whole shape here, or this whole shape, or this whole shape. Once I have those right, then I'll start to do the forms that go inside those forms. So, you know, this is a kind of a relaxing process, the smoothing out. Again, I think a company called Geiswein, because I've had these for so long, these rifflers, and here's another one, and what they have is little cross hatch type, almost like a, what would I say, like a woodworking tool. It has little teeth. I wish I could do a close-up, and when I redo these videos to show this whole project, I'll get real close up with the videos I'm taking now. I can do that, and you'll be able to see there's like little, let me see if you could, now that you can't see it from there, little cross hatching. Here's the other riffler just up close. It has cut lines in those ends, and they're pretty small, but it just makes the surface so you can evaluate what you've done and go to the next step. And that's where I am with this right now. I think I need to add more volume on this side, on this wing. In fact, I know I do. But what I want to do first is just put some of that clay back. And here's a nice tool. This was a handmade tool, but they have lots of tools like this. Again, Sculpture Depot has these other places, these padding tools. So if I want to put clay back on, it helps me fill in those gaps. Right now, I'm not really doing an additive step. But if some clay comes off, I have a little here, for example, like I had lost a little clay there. I can put it back on like that, and then go back with my riffler tool and just smooth it back into the main shape like that. So I was thinking about a lizard project. I really am. And I do have some geckos, but I'm thinking it might be more exciting to do something like an iguana. And tell me, I guess, what you would like me to do for the lizard project, because you can get a very simple and small lizard, or you can do something kind of large and exciting, almost dragon-like. And so that might be fun, something like an iguana. Oh, thank you. It's a little hard to see. I don't have a way to close up while I'm doing this. Someday, I'll have some help doing my filming. But as you can see now, what I've done is just these basic shapes on the, let's see, basic head shapes. Oops. And those are some views. And then these are some side views. Oops, stabbing my sculpture. Okay, there we are. There's the side view. And again, the side view going this way. And I haven't had tons and tons of time to work on this. I tend to be working on it for the live stream, and then I'll come back maybe and do a little bit. But I have so many projects ongoing right now. So plus I'm actually enrolled in school. So I don't have a lot of time to work on it. But so this live stream in the morning gives me a chance to work on sculpture. And so when I get done this, and we have the next stage to do after it's all smoothed out is all the in-between detail. And of course the base has to be looking like real wood. Then I'll move on to the next sculpture. So I do want to do Gambel quail, a male and female Gambel quail, because they're around here and they're really a cool bird. But I'm getting that request to do a lizard. So it can be a small lizard or it can be a big fancy lizard. I'm thinking of iguanas. I used to live in Belize, Central America, and they had iguanas everywhere, just like hanging out in people's yards all afternoon. These big iguanas would just sunbathe, and they were so amazing looking. And I thought, wow, that would make a great sculpture. Or, you could do something where iguanas are part of a vase. You could do a fountain with iguanas or monitor lizards. I used to be involved with wildlife rehabilitation at a natural history museum, and people would bring in the lizards and snakes and all kinds of things that got too big for them as pets. And so one of the lizards I had for a short time was a big tegu lizard. I think it was the Peruvian kind. And they would eat eggs and other like cat food and different things. But what a beautiful subject that was potentially for a sculpture, because they have a kind of a white and black and a beading effect on their scales. So you can see I'm just smoothing these forms, and then I should check them. I shouldn't just go like that forever without taking my my calipers and checking. So I made this mark here, and then I made another mark here on my pattern, sort of giving me bearing. And then I can check it like that. See how it comes to the end there? Or I can check from here to here, like that. And so that's how you arrive at this. You just keep checking your work. And when I'm not doing this live, I'm really intensely trying to check and see that I'm on the right track. And that keeps me from kind of veering off course. And now I don't know what's wrong and I can't figure it out. The patterns and ways to measure are just, to me, an essential part of doing this without having to backtrack. So let me come over here and do a little more smoothing. I knew this is pretty much all I'd be doing for a while, so I saved this for this morning. And then by tomorrow, we should see the cut marks starting in between. We need eyelids on the eyes need to be rounded better, and we'll start to define the head with feathers. So what was your question? Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm debating, should I do the quail next or should I do the lizard next? I'm sort of caught between worlds. I like both. But I have had a lot of lizards, and iguanas are pretty cool because they're so textural, perfect for sculpture. I might just do that. Plus I'm familiar with them. And you can make them climbing a tree, which is great. Like a ground lizard, well, you can put it on rocks, I suppose. But the other thing is you can do a lizard and then you can make a mold on the parts and then cast that mold. Now take the different parts, the heads, the legs, all the parts, and rearrange them in plaster as plaster models. And now sculpt into the plaster. And now you can have multiple lizards in a scene, on a fountain. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas that you can do. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun when you get past a certain stage. It's like, when it still looks like a blob, you feel like you're never going to get there. And then all of a sudden, if you just keep up that discipline of measuring, suddenly you're going to see it almost come to life. It almost forms out of nowhere. And that's what's exciting. Like, so you don't want to give up on yourself because you think, oh, I don't have talent or whatever. It's really about, I'm going to fill in a little more there. It's really about the discipline of following a plan. When you follow a plan, and by a plan, I mean, I created this plan of the owl after looking at, and I'll just turn this, look at all my pictures I printed out that are on the wall. Those are from the internet, just looking around. And some of the pictures, I would go to a video and do stop the video and then take a screenshot. Because with video, oh my gosh, you can get any angle you need. So it makes it so much. I mean, in the old days, there was no internet when we started. And you had to find pictures of everything if you did not have the live animal. And that made it really challenging because you couldn't just keep a big animal. Like if you had a project, for example, Chuck had a project where he had to do a doll sheep or a grizzly bear. Well, needless to say, we couldn't keep a grizzly bear in the house. So to have the internet, you can find so many pictures, including stop the action on a video of whatever you're interested in doing. And then what I do, and I'm trying to make it easy and for people to learn, is if you want to get these guides, I'm going to be having a guide, a preview guide, which is what I have now. And then when I'm all done, it'll have pictures of the progress and other views that are really almost impossible to do in the preliminary stages. But they kind of form themselves like, okay, I know the back is going to be, so wide, the head. But then I don't have necessarily a picture to show the top and what the top view will look like looking down on it. I don't have a drawing for that. And that's because I have to use these other drawings, like, okay, now the side view, and then look at my other pictures to come up with that kind of view. And now that I have it, then I can photograph it and add it to the collection of studies that you can work from, this to this. So it gives people a roadmap of like, oh, I'd love to do sculpture, but I don't have the talent. No, you do have the talent. Maybe it's the discipline to follow a guide. That's what's needed. But anybody can develop that if you have the will to do it. If you're interested and you want to, you can do it. That's what's really fun about sculpture. In a way, sculpture is easier to do because you can follow a plan than just drawing from life. Drawing from life can be a lot harder. So I think sculpture is more available to everybody. That's my thought. As you can see, this tool really smooths out the parts so you can take stock of what you've got here and say, okay, now I need to add a little more here or subtract a little more there. So it really does help the process. And the other tip I'd like to give people is as you're working, try to clean up all the little crumbs that come off. And the reason for that, I mean, boy, it can really stick to your floor. So there's just sort of this process of working. Again, I have this light over my work because it helps me evaluate the volumes that I've made here and get a view. But the other thing, when I was learning to do sculpture, the other thing people said to do is stand back from your work. Don't just up close all the time. Always get back and really take a look at where you're going with it. And sometimes I'm guilty of not doing that enough, and I'll stand back and I'll go, uh-oh, I got to take off or add. And I've maybe overly worked an area, but it's not right, and then I have to take it off. So it's an interesting challenge to just get into habits while you're sculpting that help you keep it all on track. That's really it. Keep it all according to your diagram and your plan. And I'm not saying you can't get creative. You certainly can, but it's really nice to have confidence that there's a way to do it and get a specific look in the end, something you're after. But you can certainly change your plan and then make something that's completely stylized or even abstract, beautiful form. Doesn't have to be realistic form. It can be creative, but it's nice to be able to have a sense that, well, I'm doing that on purpose, not just because it came out that way. Because that gives you a sense that any idea you have, you can make a sculpture that represents it. Hi, Charlie. Thank you. Charlie says it's really coming along. I was not out here enough in the past week, but I'm just doing the main forms and I'm just smoothing them out right now, like according to this set of diagrams I've made. What I do is I measure all these different forms, and then I come back to my model and I measure. And I've been doing that back and forth. And now I'm just trying to smooth. I have this tool called a riffler, which is a really cool sculpting tool for this purpose, where you just want to smooth out the forms and really evaluate your work. And as soon as I'm done doing this and I'll measure and just add more or subtract more in places, get the eyelids and the eyes completed, all the little shapes in the face completed, then I'll go in and do the detail feathering on the back, and then there's a lot more detail on the head. So I have all these diagrams, which if without, I would be off in left field, and who knows what this would look like. It would be really interesting. So another question. Hello, Abel. Glad to have you join us this morning. And so I won't be here tomorrow, but I will be here on Wednesday morning. It turns out I have schoolwork, and it turns out I have to spend more time on my schoolwork. You're probably going, at my age, do I have schoolwork? Yes, I do. I'm actually a student right now at Northern Arizona University, and I've already taken art in the past. So now I'm taking things like English, and I was an art major when I was a kid. So this is like a whole new set of courses, which are very interesting. But I'll be doing this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as much as I can, and I'll let you know in a video if I can't be doing it. And so we're going to do, I've got some requests for a lizard, and so I'm going to finish this sculpture, and then I'll think about doing an iguana. Gold Rush is one of the people in the group. Do you think an iguana would be a good idea? Let me know if you do, because if there's another kind of lizard you prefer, but I think an iguana would be exciting. It has a lot of dragon-like features, and they get pretty big, and they climb trees, and so I like them. So I've been asked, what am I going to do with this when I'm done? Well, I'll put it on the shelf, and we'll go on to the next one. When I have a few, I think what we'll do is have a consultation with a mold maker. Now, I've made molds before, but not the complexity. I mean, I really would like to consult one of my friends who's a professional mold maker, and we could get him on at the same time and talk about, like, maybe I'll get through a few clay sculptures, and then we want to talk about where the best places to cut this up will be, and furthermore, what kind of mold to make on it. There's different options for different rubber molds that we're going to be looking at. And then the goal will be to cast it into plaster. And so then we'll have plaster models, which I will further refine. Didn't mean to do that. Further refine with more detail. That's been the way that I've traditionally done it, but I wasn't the mold maker. But I've seen it done many, many times, and it's a whole specialty unto itself. Really good mold making, I should say, is. You can see the back a little bit. Let's see. You can see what I'm doing. Move that back a little. Haven't even begun to work on the base yet. Just threw it in there, and it needs to be. It needs to look like real wood, and that's what our goal will be here. So hopefully, I'll work on this a little more when I'm off camera soon here, and then when you see me on Wednesday, I hope to have it a lot further along. But at least you can see this was a stage I like to do, which is just getting it refined like this. Just getting it rather, I don't know if that's the right word, smoothed out so I can see where I am. This really helps to do that. I remember when we first discovered these rifflers years ago while working on the giftware industry projects that we did. And we were like, oh, these are so great. They really allow you to take the work through a stage where you can see exactly what you're doing. Love these tools. Geiswein, Geisssswein, I think is the manufacturer. and they're called Rifflers, and they do tools for jewelry making. So this is just one of them, and then this is the other one I really like. And it has little cuts, little cut marks at each end. Like I can use this just as well too. And it just gives a nice almost cross hatching, and it levels surfaces so well. So you can see that. I'll have to post online some of the ways to directly get in touch with these companies. So today I'll go onto our website, learnsculpture.org, and put how you can get hold of these tools, Riffler tools. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go offline now so I can really get into it a little more. Let's see if I can. There you go. Any more questions? I'm not going to use polymer clay. Somebody's asking me, do I want to use polymer clay for the lizard? I don't, because having been a professional sculptor, I know that if I use this kind of oil-based clay, and this is very hard, there's a hard version here, and there's also, I don't put it right there, but a soft version and a medium version. This is Clayette by Chavant, and you can get this from Chavant, and on our website, learnsculpture.org, it has the information. I don't sell it, but they do. And also Sculpture Depot.net sells Chavant clay and other clays too. But the reason I don't like polymer clay as much is because it limits how much you can make changes. It limits you in mold making, and I'm interested in showing you the next stage after I get a few of these done for going into a mold that then gets cast in plaster. And from plaster, you do more refining, put it all back together, and now make another mold on it, or the plaster is the final product. So it's hard plaster. But ultimately, these are going to be designed so they could be made into bronze. And so polymer clay is, once it hardens in the oven, you can't do anything more with it easily. You can carve it, but not, it's just not the same. Believe me. For example, let me show you a set before I go. All right, so I drew a little design. I'm going to show you a set of little characters. I drew this for a Christmas card, and Chuck looked at it, my sculpting partner who had passed away in 2014, and my husband passed away in 2014. He looked at that and he said, oh, let's do a line of characters. And so we used this regular oil-based clay, and I'll show you if I can bring them all down here. This set of characters, I'm going to place this down. And we made this little set of characters, and we ended up casting these, everything here. We cast these in, and Santa has a little footstool there. First plaster, refined their little faces, if you can see. Their little faces. Refined them with plaster, which gave it a huge amount of detail that we could control. And then here's another little guy. And then we made rubber molds on those so they could be reproduced. And so that's an example of the level of finish that you can get doing it with this technique. This is the professional sculptor technique that we used for 30 years in the gift industry. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily say this is fine art, but you could say that this technique could be applied to a monumental statue. It doesn't matter. It's the level of control that you want to have when you do sculpture. And that is, in my opinion, attained by going from malleable clay to a mold, cast the model in plaster, refine that, and then place a mold on that. Now go for bronze, go for plaster reproductions, resin. These are resin. I mean, the sky's the limit, and you have all the options available. So, but anyway, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to try to get something done here, put on my TV, and I'll see you on Wednesday morning, and hopefully it'll be a lot further along. So Thank you for watching. See you later, everybody.